Hello, everybody. I'm back from Portland. Went to Rose City Comic Con with Eric Canetti and the guys from Kindred Heavens, Scott Malin and Bryce. So, we had a really great time. And I figured I would do a little after action review here, talk about the Portland show, my thoughts on the area, and we'll get into North Carolina. That's the next show that Iconic Comics will be at, North Carolina Comic Con. So I will be flying into Raleigh in the near future. I think it's going to be, Thursday, whatever that is, November 2nd. And I'll be meeting up with Tim and Mark and Eric Canetti. And then from there, we're just going to be doing the show. To do Saturday, Sunday. Friday is set up, so we're probably going to get some food. I heard North Carolina has some awesome peach cobbler, so I am looking forward to the peach cobbler. I really like peaches. Obviously, I'm sure they have good barbecue and other things like that. So I'll be eating various meats, grilled meats, and just looking forward to it. So that's the dirty little secret is I like to go to these shows. I mean, I like to sell the books, but I also really like to check out the local cuisine or whatever the foods that place is known for. I like to check that out. Dan is here. Bianca Fights the Zombies is here. Scribbles is here. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Dan, Scribbles, I miss you guys. I'll be back in your neck of the woods sometime in the near future. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So yeah, some cool peeps. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. So yeah, I figured I would just talk about Portland and how it relates to both the short term and big picture, long term idea of Iconic Comics. So, all right. So I landed in Portland. Eric Canetti was nice enough to pick me up at the airport early in the morning, and then we grabbed some food. And we went out to a nice dinner, so that was cool. He showed me around Portland. I don't know if this is accurate or not because I haven't really spent enough time in Boston. I drove around Boston multiple times years ago, but Portland almost seems like this long lost brother of Boston. They were separated at birth, and Portland was raised on the West Coast, and Boston obviously on the East Coast, and so there's elements of both. But one is clearly a West Coast raised boy, and then one is East Coast. But I really liked Portland a lot. The only sad thing was there is a lot of where I was homelessness and drug use, and they have the thing now with the people that are they take fentanyl and then they contort in strange ways and they're bent over and they look like I'm not even trying to be mean here. In the new Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, there are these beings that are kind of like zombies. I think they're called Gibdos, and they're all hunched over and they're weird and they lurch around. That's what you look like when you do fentanyl. And it's called trank something or other when you get the effect, and it's just really super sad. So that's the one thing that I was like, man, this city has seen better days in terms of they got to get that under control. But the city itself was beautiful, and they had some really good food there. They just need to figure out a way to get that under figure out a way to solve their homelessness and drug addict problem and all that sort of stuff because it's out of control. The church that I went to was very nice, and they had some old school stuff going on. So that was cool. And one of my readers let me know to go to, Holy Rosary in Portland. And I took her up on the offer. And Eric Canetti, I don't think he would mind me saying, was nice enough to drive me to Mass super early in the morning. So basically I was there around 6 o'clock in the morning for 7 o'clock Mass because he had to go somewhere as well and pick up some books at home. And he was cool enough to drop me off. I was like, you know what? I could walk, but it's still pitch black out. And there are these drug addicts everywhere. And I was like, I know I could like take care of myself, but I really want to avoid confrontation if at all possible. Like they're probably passed out, but I didn't want to walk a mile in like, pitch dark in the city, and there's drug addicts and stuff like that that are lurking in the shadows. So if I can avoid confrontation, I will do so. But anyway, the show was awesome, and let's see, where do we start here? So as it relates to iconic comics, there was a couple things that I wanted to establish with the show. So I'm only speaking for myself. I'm sure the other guys have their reasons for why they want to do shows, or what, why they want to be there. Some of it overlaps, but I'm only speaking for myself here. So one thing that I wanted to establish with going to Portland was that Iconic Comics is not confined to Texas. The comfortable confines of Texas. We don't want to get complacent. Not that people think that, because Iconic has been to other areas. Last year, or I'm losing track of time, we were in Orlando together. Tim and Mark have gone over the years many places outside the South. But just speaking for myself, and maybe this sort of idea that's out there is that, they're just a group of quote unquote conservative guys that they just stick to Texas and Arkansas, and they're just going to sell books to people that agree with their personal politics or something along those lines. And I wanted to establish, no, I have no intention of just sticking to Texas. Now, if I can be near Fort Hood or a military base and sell books about combat veteran exorcists, then I'm going to do that, because they're my audience. My population of readers tends to be made up of military veterans, active duty guys, whether National Guard, Army, Navy, Marines, you name it, law enforcement, cops, people that have family members that are cops, obviously religious people. So yeah, if I could get near a military base to sell books, I will do that. But I also want to go to the place where you would least expect Iconic Comics to show up if you thought that was just a bunch of conservative dudes that were selling books and they just wanted to talk to other conservative dudes. So I was like, you know what? Bam. Yeah, I do want to go to Portland. And thank you, Eric Canetti, for facilitating all the logistical stuff involved in that. So that was something that I wanted to establish. Also, I wanted to show by the end of the year, okay, we went to shows in the South, now we went to shows out West, and now we got to go to a show out East. So we're going to North Carolina, early November. Tim, Mark, Eric, and myself. So we've gone everywhere. We've tried to reach readers wherever they are, whatever your politics are, whatever your faith is, we're trying to reach you. And so for me, it's one of those things where face-to-face interactions is how you grow readership. I think it's severely underrated. There is a pool of creators that are online that they actually poo-poo going to shows. They do not like shows. They say that shows are a waste of time. I have found that shows are definitely not a waste of time. And it would only be a waste of time if you have a bad attitude, if you are not a good salesman in terms of face-to-face interactions with people, and on some level, if you just don't like hard work, because shows, if you're doing them correctly, you actually do have to put a lot of work into it. So Eric Canetti and Scott and Bryce can vouch for me on this one. I literally did not sit down for 3 days straight at this booth. I stood up the entire time from what it was like 1 to 8 p.m., 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. if I'm not mistaken, and 10 p.m. 10 a.m. To 7 p.m. and then 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. I think that was it. So I literally did not sit down the entire time. I was attentive. If you look around, there's other creators around. There's people selling books. The people that had a hard time selling books are people that would sit on their butts. They have like their displays there, and then they're sitting down behind these displays, and people are walking by. If you're sitting down, you're behind your books, you're slouched low. It's much harder to make eye contact with people. And if you don't make eye contact with people, you can't read their faces. You can't read their nonverbal expressions. That there's a language that is spoken through people's eyes and facial expressions, how they're walking, how they look at you. So if you're paying attention, if you're attentive, if you're standing up, you can see people that, oh, this is my opportunity to say, hey, how's it going? Wave, hey, smile, be gregarious and inviting people to look at your, hey, if anything catches your eye, feel free to open the book. Some people are tentative, they don't want to they're scared. They don't know if they could open the books or not. Some people are just not that social. Maybe they're a little intimidated or whatever. So you have to gauge. So there was one guy who walked by me and he had a big red 1 tattoo on his arm. And so I was part of the big red 1. So I was like, hey, dude, big red 1. And then he immediately turned. He's like, huh? And he's like, what? You're in big red 1? And I was like, yeah. He's like, what's your unit? And I was like, Charlie 118. And he's like, what? I was Charlie 118. And he's like, I was 2005 to 2008. When were you in? And I was like, I was in the 90s. And I was in Schweinfurt, Germany. And then he was like, I was in Schweinfurt. And I was like, yeah, man, they closed it down or whatever. Later after Iraq, Afghanistan. He's like, yeah, blah, 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 Kansas, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, if I was slouched in my seat, if I wasn't paying attention, I would not have seen his big red 1 tattoo. Anyway, we start talking. I'm like, listen, I don't know if you're interested in supernatural books, but I got this series on combat veteran exorcists. His girlfriend is right next to him. She says, we'll take them all. And then he kind of laughs or turns to her or whatever. And he's like, yeah, man, let's do it. So he bought all the books right there on the spot. That was a sale of Demon's Match, Black Tide, Infinite Ascent, and Warcry right away. I was given Warcry as a short story. So if you get all 3 of the volumes, then I was given a deal where you get Warcry for free. But anyway, he bought all the books right there on the spot because I was paying attention. I wasn't just like, if they talk to me, I'll talk to them, blah, 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 blah. So that's just one example. There's another guy that was there. I started talking to him. I noticed he has a little lanyard on and it says Navy on it. And I was like, hey, if you check out the series, if you like it, volume 5 it's probably going to, Matt Weldon is probably going to start penciling that in the very near future. And it's called Soul Finder Silent Service. And his eyes light up and he's like, what? He's like, I was a submariner. That's the submariner guys. I was like, exactly. I was like, so I haven't done a book giving the Navy guys any love. So I want to give the Navy guys some love. So, silent service, submariners. And I had to do all this research on crush depth. And I was thinking, what if I incorporated the idea of spiritual crush depth into that as well? So if you go deep into the occult, if you go deep into evil, at some point in time, there is spiritual crush depth. And it basically just kills your soul or whatever. You just become completely compressed in evil, and there's no way to get out or whatever. So again, from the faith-based perspective, yes, I understand. If you turn to Christ until your last breath, there is always the hope. But you get what I'm saying. So and he bought all the books. So that was another guy right there. Boom, he buys all the books. Also, there was a guy that came to the booth, and guess what? He had a little hat on, and it said, it was like a Comicsgate hat. And so people know the history with, we won't get into all the history, at least not right now. Anyway, he says to me, he says, years ago, I was out of a job and you gave me a copy of Demon's Match for free. And then he proceeded to buy Infinite Ascent. He bought the new book. So that was an instance where if I never went to Portland, I never would have seen the guy. I didn't know he was going to be there. Nothing at all. And this is a guy who's probably, if he pays attention to YouTube, has heard that I'm the boogeyman, that I am essentially the indie comics devil, due to a whole bunch of lies spread in a smear campaign spread by somebody who actually I'll talk about in a little bit. So anyway, this guy comes up to me and he's like, yeah, man, you gave me a book when I didn't have a job. And then he proceeded to buy volume 3. I'm assuming he had Black Tide as well. But so boom, another sale there. There was a woman and her friend. She comes by with him and she's like, hey, I bought the books yesterday. I read them last night. And this guy right here, I knew he would be into them. So then her boyfriend, or I don't even know what, maybe a husband, brother, I don't know what it was. They're about the same age. He buys all the books. So a woman comes, she buys all 3 books. The next day, she reads them like Friday night or whatever it was, comes back Saturday or whatever, Saturday, Sunday. And that's another 3 books. So those are 6 books sold. And because they bought the series, that's 2 copies of War Cry. So literally 8 books, boom, because I went to Portland, sold, new readers, and maybe they're going to get Soul Finder Volume 4 when it comes out in the near future. So again and again and again, there was another guy who is a subscriber to Englantine from I Love Comics. And he was like, hey, man, you know what? I appreciate that years ago. I think it's cool. I think it's inspiring that you started off and you were doing comments, like, you know, commentary on the industry. You were doing these book reviews, and now you got your own books and you're coming out with iconic comics and you're going all over the place, yada, 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 yada. Buy some stuff. I think he bought Infinite Ascent as well. I don't know if he got a pin. I think he may have gotten a pin, but that's another guy. So how many people have we covered? The dude in the hat, the big red one, the Navy, the woman, her boyfriend, the Englantine. So that's 6 people right there. And each of them bought books. And some of them bought all of the books right there. And then I was also selling the hardcovers. So I was able to sell hardcovers on top of that. None of this would have ever happened if I didn't go and make the time to go to Portland for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday show. And then obviously people will end up following you on social media, on Instagram, all of that sort of stuff. So again, very interesting. I will note that watching other people try and sell their books at the show, there are some people, if you're one of these people, one of these creators out there, they're like, it's not worth it. It's not, maybe you don't have your pitch down. There was one guy, I asked him, I was like, hey dude, like, what's your book about? Tell me about the book. He couldn't tell me. He gave me like the vaguest thing ever. I don't want to like out who he is and really like talk about it, but he just literally, it was just like super vague. And I was like, that's why you're not selling books. You don't have your pitch down. And one of the things that I like about going to these shows is that it helps you condense your own series down into its most essential elements. And when you have that, then you could start playing around with how you talk to different people. Because I was in Portland and I was like, so here's the thing. When I'm in Texas, I can see people wearing grunt style t-shirts, and you know immediately they're a veteran or they're somebody that has an affinity for veterans. They want to be in the military, who knows? But if they have a grunt style shirt, they got the American flag, and it's like kind of like backwards, because when you're charging forward, that's the way the flag ends up flying. You're like, okay, this guy, if I can just talk to him, there's a good shot I could, and he wants to buy a book. He's remotely interested. There's a good chance. When I was in Portland, the first day, I didn't see one. I don't think I saw a grunt style shirt the entire time. I did see a couple shirts with an American flag on it, but I don't think I saw one grunt style shirt. So I was leading with the supernatural angle. It was like, hey, if you're open to supernatural books, then, and here's the other thing, when you're talking about language, when you're talking about selling books, initially I was like, hey, if you like supernatural books, and then I thought about it and I was like, no, if you say, if you like supernatural books, they might instinctually be like, I don't really like supernatural, and then tune you out. But if you say, if you're open to supernatural books, well, now that's something very different is going to go on in their heads, because they might think, am I open to supernatural? Yeah, I guess I'm open to supernatural. That's very different than like giving them this like clear line of demarcation where you either like it or you don't like it. they could be like, I historically I haven't really liked it, but I am open to it. And so how you approach people, the words that you use are very, very important. And you're not going to learn those things if you're not going to shows. If you're only online and you're talking to your YouTube screen like I am right now, yes, you could engage with the chat. Dave says, "How's the food in Portland?" The food in Portland was very good that I had. I'm sure there's some bad restaurants, but I had some very good food there. I went to a steak place called Ringside, and that was very good. And then we went to a tapas place. We actually sat outside. It was nice weather. And the tapas place was very good as well. And actually, in the Hyatt, in the hotel, there was like a little marketplace. It obviously wasn't a restaurant by any means, but as far as hotel food goes for breakfast, they had like breakfast sandwiches and they had Tillamook cheese on them, which is a good, it's good cheese. So even the hotel stuff was good. So I was overall very happy with a lot that Portland had to offer. But with that said, it definitely has its problems on a just purely societal level, and civil society with drug addicts and things like that that are they are out and about. That is for sure, and they need help. So hopefully they figure that out. Oh, here's the other thing with going to shows. So Iconic Comics. Sorry if this is controversial. This might be controversial. Iconic Comics is proving that many quote unquote culture warriors, not all of them, but a large percentage of them, operate under a false dichotomy. So, what if you have storytellers who just so happen to be conservative, who can release content and thrive in places where we were told that we would not be able to thrive there? And what if you're able to thrive in these places without acting like a circus barker or just a circus clown on YouTube and saying things just to rile people up? What if you have been led to believe that there's a false dichotomy where you have to constantly go out of your way to needle people with bombastic comments and commentary and things like that? What if me, as a conservative dude, can sell my books without personally just going out of my way to poke people that disagree with me politically in the eye? I'm just like, hey, this is who I am. I'm a practicing Catholic dude. I happen to be conservative, but I'm a storyteller. I love the craft of storytelling. Here are my books. People have been giving them good reviews. People love Matt Weldon's art. I want to sell books to you. I don't want to necessarily get into arguments with you. I'm trying to avoid arguments, but I will stand up for what I believe if we want to have that conversation. But I'm not going to sucker punch you with my politics or anything like that. Is it possible for me to walk into Portland, essentially Antifa Central, and be successful selling my books in places where Brian Michael Bendis is right down the road from me? Or name all sorts of artists that you would be like, oh, how on earth is Doug operating in the same space as these people, but he's not compromising on his principles? He's saying, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. This is what Soul Finder's about. This is what Iconic Comics is about. And we're trying to sell books here. And I'm going to do it right next to you. And in fact, when we unload our truck, I'm going to be unloading, me and Eric are going to be unloading our books right next to people that if you knew who was unloading their books right next to me, you'd be like, how on earth are they together? And there's not fireworks going on right now. There's not, because if you act like a professional, there's no need for fireworks. They don't need to agree with my personal politics at all. And we know that they don't, especially when it comes to Californians and, talking about gas prices and how Californians who vote for bad policies are people that are playing the why you punching yourself game, but they're literally punching themselves like a total lunatic. And they're just like, why are you punching yourself? Why are you punching yourself? Well, you're punching yourself. You're crazy. You wonder why you got high gas prices. It's because you vote for people that want you to pay high gas prices, or people that lie about you about the ramifications of their public policy. So, yeah, Brian Michael Bendis, there's the thing. Brian's run on Iron Man was incredibly boring. I forgot how many issues it was, but let's just say there was 12 issues that I was reading. And out of the 12 issues, I think Tony Stark as Iron Man in his Iron Man armor, I think he appeared like in 2 panels. I might be slightly exaggerating, but not by much. He was barely in his actual Iron Man armor. And it was essentially him like trying to set the stage for Riri Williams and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, so Brian, whatever. But anyway, the point is Brian Michael Bendis right down there, people seeing him. Oh, and guess what? Guess who is also there? Well, just so happens to be Iconic Comics. So I had a really good time at the Portland show. I'm looking forward to going back again. The area that we were at, it was weird. There was like Artist Alley on one side, and then there were toys on the other. And then in between, it was like people were doing beelines between them. So it was a little hard to get people's attention because they had their eyes focused on one of 2 points, essentially. So like I was saying earlier, you had to be attentive, because if you saw people and they made eye contact with you, or they glanced at your books or whatever, you had to be ready to be like, hey man, check it out or whatever. Because if you weren't paying attention, you weren't going to get that sale. They're gone. They're gone for good. You got one chance. Actually, there was a lot of people that looped multiple times over the course of the day, but a lot of people, you had one chance to get them. If you didn't, they're gone. They're here. They are gone. So overall, very happy with the show. I am looking forward to North Carolina quite a bit, and had a great time. Now, like I said, there was the guy that came up to me in the hat, who you would have thought, if you pay attention to all the YouTube stuff, that he would have came up and be like, Doug, I heard you're the boogeyman, and you are the boogeyman. I will never buy your books. No, he bought the books. And like I said, over the course of time, there were so many lies spread that most people now understand were in fact lies, because I showed proof of it. But apparently, the guy that was in many ways responsible for a giant spear campaign, I heard he's back. I heard he's talking about Iconic Comics again. I don't understand why, because I keep showing proof that this guy is a total liar. So let's go here. You might know him. He had a book about whales, and there needed to be a whale abortion performed. This whale was not allowed to give birth on Earth, or else there would have been a calamity. So we have to give the whale an abortion. Anyway, this guy is back. Apparently, he was saying he's scared that Iconic Comics is gonna dox him because his dox is out there, which is actually really weird, because he doxed himself when he had a Kickstarter campaign that imploded upon itself. And then a comic book pro ran to Kiwi Farms, which is basically essentially in many ways a doxing website, and told all the people there that are perfectly fine with that sort of stuff where exactly to find his dox. And then they did just that. And then they started. So I didn't do that. The people who he now kisses their butts and tries to brown nose with them, they're the ones that did that, not me. So for a year, I have not said anything about this guy, or I have gone out of my way to try to selectively drop receipts so people know that this guy is a liar. So here's another one. Just I shared this on Twitter because people let me know, hey, this guy's back. He's talking about you. He's saying that he's scared that you got his docs and all. Even though I never even talk about the guy. I go out of my way not to do that. But you know what? Here we go. So this particular guy, the comic book hut. This is a guy that was saying, like, he couldn't understand why on earth I wasn't going to do cartwheels and tell people, my own subscribers, that they got to run out right now and buy this book. So here's some more proof that I never even released this. But, you know, if people want to keep talking about me at this point in time, why not? Why not just show some proof? Just drop some receipts on this guy's truth bombs on this guy's head. So let me tell you, this guy, he asked me to critique his script And I told him it needed 3 or 4 more drafts. It was not ready for prime time. In fact, I'll read exactly what I wrote to him on June 5th, 2021, on his book, Commander Stripe, The Dawning. The script for CSTD is an imaginative first draft that harkens to space operas of decades past. Visually, there are some great images conjured up in the mind, as you would expect for books that take place in space with, astronauts doing their thing. With that said, the epic visuals must be tethered to a story that has time to breathe. As it stands, readers are dropped into a vast and sprawling universe of characters in such a way where they feel like the sailors on the aircraft carrier, i.e., confused. The reader would be confused. Yes, there are flashbacks, but what is attempted through exposition demands far more creative real estate to put readers on more solid ground and to cultivate feelings of empathy with at least one main character. Wow, this sounds like a really professional critique that was sent to someone that came to him for help. It's almost like I read the script multiple times and I spend hours of my free time trying to think of a way to give someone the tools that they need to succeed. That's what it sounds like to me, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm weird. I'm biased, I know, but you could decide for yourself. CSTD feels like a book in which the writer knows the backstories of key characters, but at least one of those stories should be explored before a roller coaster of action and adventure. It's okay to be dizzy on rides, but there is a difference between waking up on a roller coaster out of the deep sleep and having no idea how you got there and going on a family vacation in which you paid entrance fees, waited in line, and looked up at its heights before climbing into the seat. I go on. Similarly, when dealing with spiritual beings and a lot of metaphorical imagery, a writer needs to also have a firm helping of concrete characterization. Using metaphor is very dangerous because if it isn't tethered to something less abstract, then readers can get lost. Wow, again, I'm biased, but I really think this is a quality critique. I mean, this is something that I could have charged people for. In fact, I could have charged a decent amount of money because over the years, people have come to me and they've asked me to do such things. And there's actually people that would be willing to pay me to do exactly this. But for this guy, you know what? I was like, hey, you know what? This guy, he's always like, he's got a rough life. Everyone's against him. He's been dealt a bad hand. His mother literally, is sick. He's a sole caretaker. He comes to me. I need help. I don't have that much money. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, fine. You know what? I'll give you the critique. All right. What CSTD aims for, big, bold, epic, is commendable. There aren't many authors in mainstream comics who A, are willing to take on the challenge, and B, capable of doing it from a technical standpoint. It's a heavy lift. That was a typo there. I put life, but it's lift. Heavy lifts when it comes to airplanes require a lot of runway. CSTD would benefit from a longer creative runway. As it stands, there is an abundance of staccato-like action that requires smoother notes to make the whole ready for opening night. Again, there are awe-inspiring visuals in this first draft, but it is ultimately a first draft. I do not suggest inking until at least, let me say it one more time for you, at least 3 or 4 drafts are complete. Again, I do not suggest inking until at least 3 or 4 drafts are complete. I was ignored. That's fine. People can ignore me. They can ignore my advice. That's fine. But what they shouldn't do is ignore my advice, immediately go to inking, and then when they release their Kickstarter campaign and it's a complete mess, run to people who hate my guts and tell them, I don't know why Doug Ernst wouldn't just be a shill for my book. I have no idea. What a jerk. This guy's such a jerk. Really? Because as you can see here, something that I would have never made public had this guy not. It's for over a year and a half now, or whatever the heck it's been, since June of last year, he continues to lie. He comes back like gonorrhea, some sort of STD or something. He blurts out a bunch of lies Then people scrutinize his lies, and then he runs away. He deletes all of his content. He deletes his videos, and then he comes back like an STD months later, and he does the same thing. He flares up, and then he goes away. He flares up, and then he goes away. So oftentimes, a good idea is to let a script sit for a few days, even a week or two, and come back to it with fresh eyes. I would suggest that with CSTD. There is no hurry. It's better to do things right than to do things fast. With the right script and solid art, CSTD has a lot of potential to fill the void of epic stories. Again, if it had 3 or 4 more drafts and the right art, then it might have a good chance of filling that void. So here you go. So for people that, if you go to this guy's YouTube channel in the future or Twitter, where he's trying to make it seem like Iconic Comics is, ooh, they got his docs that he he literally doxed himself on his own campaign. Just know that I have proof like this that show that he is a giant liar. He is a giant, one of the most dishonest people that I have ever met. And all I tried to do, as you can see, is give this guy the tools for success. He came to me, hat in hand, asking for help. And what did I do? Yeah, I mean, this is professional. There's no way anyone can argue that this is not a professional, me trying to be as professional as possible with somebody. I tried. Do you know how hard it is to tell someone that their script is a mess while also simultaneously being optimistic and offering up constructive criticism, but also offering them praise where they deserve praise, finding things that need to be highlighted that are, give them a little bit of hey, that a boy, you did that. All right. Good job. But this is a total mess. It's very hard to do this. And I put a lot of time and a lot of thought into trying to help this person. And so, a year ago and a year and a half ago, whatever it was, to have people act as if I didn't try to help this person who came to me. I'm doing my own thing. I got I'm trying to put out my own books. To act as if I just flippantly don't give a rip about anybody. And this is just one person that has come to me over the years. Multiple people have come to me over the years, whether it's about asking, directions for their YouTube channel, book stuff, blah, 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 blah. And for years, all I tried to do is help people who came to me and give them the advice that this guy, he wanted to I was working at a newspaper, and he essentially said he wanted to be like a watchdog. He wanted to be taken seriously amongst people as sort of like an indie comics watchdog. And me working for a newspaper was like, listen, if you want to be a watchdog, if you want to be taken seriously, you got to keep notes. You got to keep detailed notes. You got to, if you're doing a video on somebody, you need to be accurate with your quotes. You need to quote them exactly what they say. And you need to think about what you're presenting to be. So somebody that wanted to go down a journalistic route, I said, how do I do that? I was like, hey, this is the blueprint for how you go about doing this. And like I said, there's people across the ideological spectrum, people that you would be surprised that have reached out to me over the years and asked for my advice on various things. And it didn't matter whether you are left, center, right, whether you are a Catholic or a non-Catholic or any of those sorts of things. I tried to help people. So anyway, I could go on for quite a long time about all this sort of stuff, but you get the point. So anyway, this dude, all right. Sorry, I don't know if my stream cut out there or not. If anyone can't hear me or if my internet got wacky, let me know. But some stuff on my end was showing up and my screen was pausing. So hopefully you could hear me. Anyway, the point is I tried to help people. And a lot of that, these days when people DM me, I just ignore it. I encourage people not to DM me because I don't want to set myself up for this sort of junk again. So boom. Already talked about Iconic Comics in Portland. Cool. And let's see. Glinzer, I'm guessing that Gen Z creators think a first draft and a final draft are synonymous. Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that's fine. People do not need to take my advice at all. If they listen, they're like, you know what, Doug's crazy, Doug's insane. That's fine, but don't try and make it out to be like I didn't put in a lot of thought and effort into trying and help get a script to where it needs to be, to where people could look at it, or where I could in good faith tell the people like yourself, Glinzer, like Dave, like Scribbles, like Mr. X, Bianca, and anybody else who's watching out there. I want to be able to say to my subscribers, if I tell someone to check out a book, this is good stuff. This is where it needs to be, because I will not tell people, oh, you got to check this out, when I know that it's not where it needs to be. I'm not going to lie to my subscribers. I'm not going to lie to my viewers, and I am not going to basically hang myself for somebody that just totally asked my opinion, asked my advice, asked me for help, and then just discounted it and wholesale, and essentially, we won't say wholesale, but we'll say essentially just told me like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm smarter than you. I know what I'm doing. Well, why'd you come to me in the first place? You goof. So yeah. All right. How long have we been going here? We're not quite at an hour. I can talk about California. I can talk about Ukraine. Usually cover the political stuff in the end. I got Eric Canetti here, showing some art from Soulfinder Noctis Terrari. And Ukraine. I guess we'll go to Ukraine real quick and then just call it a stream. So long story short, I don't know if you're following this sort of stuff, but these news organizations, they are incredibly fixated on Ukraine. They're talking about government shutdowns and how it's going to affect the Ukrainians. We've already given these people something like, we'll say a lowballing at $75 billion, but I've heard as high as 70 low ball of $75 billion, but I've heard as high as 200 billion when you factor in all the ways that they can funnel money through different organizations and resources and all of these sorts of things. So we'll just say, 125 billion at least going to these people. So you have these U.S. officials that are just like, we have to continue to give them billions and billions of taxpayer dollars, and if we don't, then we're not at war with Russia, but we're just simultaneously funding a war that cannot be won unless we are funding it, and unless we are sending not only money but military hardware and all sorts of stuff other. But no, we're not at war with Russia, and if Russia were to declare war on us, then we would be the victims here, because blah 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 blah. So you have Elon Musk saying, because he just went down to the border, he says, why do so many American politicians from both parties care 100 times more about the Ukraine border than the U.S. border? So yeah, that's the thing, is, as I said here, there is a class of people that figured out that you could essentially engage in lucrative criminal behavior as long as you cloaked yourself in patriotic rhetoric long enough to get elected. Enough constituents in both parties are such blind ideologues that they will run cover for behavior that would normally boil over into widespread support. So I've said before, Ukraine, when you look at all the money that is going there, and you look at how they're not in the least sense interested in where the money is going, the accounting, as this dude says here, he also echoes it. You mean money laundering? Yes. This is I've said money laundering in the past, but this is a more flowery way to say money laundering. So you wonder why these politicians, all their kids are on the boards of energy companies. They don't even have like any background that would warrant them being on energy boards. They just magically show up on the boards, and they're making like millions and millions of dollars and all of this. Follow the money. Go to the investment portfolios of all of I bet if you look at all the investment portfolios of all the people that are just like, yeah, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep doing this. We got to keep it. I guarantee you that a large percentage of Congress They have investment portfolios where they are benefiting. They are making a lot of money off of all the military action that is going on in Ukraine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here's the thing: you have so many people in the United States that they are just blindly Republican or blindly Democrat, and they will do this "what about" game. Well, what about that guy? 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 And it's like, how about what if we just cared about the truth? What if we made truth the main concern when it comes to any of our public policy options that we're exploring or when we're talking about politicians? Because if we cared about truth, then it would just be about, hey, that's wrong. That's wrong. I don't care if you have an R next to your name. I don't care if you have a D next to your name. I don't care if you have an I next to your name. I don't care what is next to your name. Wrong is wrong and right is right. And wrong is wrong, even if everybody says it's right. So you just got to do the right thing. If everybody just cared about doing the right thing, you would just be like, no, it seems as if Republicans and Democrats both, there's these people, they end up as congressmen and senators, and maybe they're upper middle class, or maybe they weren't that wealthy before. And then all of a sudden, in a short amount of time, there is an explosion of wealth, and they become worth $50 million, $60 million, $100 million. How did that happen in such a short amount of time? Well, it's because these people are all corrupt, and you keep making excuses for corrupt people. It doesn't matter what their political party is. You probably should let's as Americans all agree that corruption is a bad thing, and it doesn't matter who is doing it. And lying is a bad thing. It doesn't matter who is doing it. And we shouldn't turn a blind eye to people that are lying to us. And we shouldn't paper over it and be like, oh, and downplay it. No, hold people accountable. Fabio, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Fabio has been a cool dude and reader for a long time. So thank you. Let's see, what else do we got here? End on a positive note. Boop. Matt Weldon just sent me a bunch of art this morning, or maybe it was late last night while I was sleeping. I don't know. But I wish I can show it because it's awesome. And it'll be colored in the very near future. So we are rolling along. I am sorry that Soul Finder Volume 4 is not yet out. But it's one of those things where I've said before that our colorist for Volume 3 ended up doing a bunch of other work, and we had to find a colorist so that there was not a drop in quality. So the quality on Volume 4 had to be equal or greater to Soul Finder Volume 3. So we found a colorist, and he is awesome, and I have enjoyed working with him a lot. He's been very easy to work with. Not that the last guy wasn't by any means, but I've been interacting with him a lot. He pays attention to the script very closely, and then when he has questions, he's like, hey, Doug, is this the time right here? Does this line up here? I think it is. Yeah, dude, you're boom. Awesome. You are great. He pays attention to all the little details. He gets them. I'm very, 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 very happy with our colorist. So he's doing that, and we are on the way. Doug, mention our next show if you haven't already. So Timothy Lim is here. And Tim, luckily enough, I did mention North Carolina. I will be there on Thursday. I'm trying to look at the dates here. I want to say November 2nd is when I'll be there, but I will look at the dates again really quick. November 2nd. I will be there on November 2nd. Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini were kind enough to say that they will swing by in their vehicle and pick me up at the airport. And Eric Canetti is going to be there as well on Thursday. I don't know if Tim even knows that yet, but Eric Canetti is going to land on Thursday. And then the show is, what are my dates now? I know I just said it, but was it Saturday and Sunday? November 4th and 5th, if I am not mistaken, in North Carolina Comic-Con. Was it Durham, North Carolina, or Raleigh? I should know the exact. Anyway, I'm flying into the Raleigh airport, North Carolina Comic-Con, Saturday and Sunday, November 4th and 5th. I think I got those dates right. Timothy Lim, Mark Pellegrini, Eric Canetti, and myself going to be selling Black Hops, Common America, Arc Athena, and Soul Finder. And I'm probably forgetting something. So yeah, and also Timothy Lim is launching their next campaign in the near future. I don't know the exact date yet, but be on the lookout. Check out Tim's YouTube channel. Check him out on Instagram. Check him out on Twitter. Check out Mark Pellegrini. Check out Eric Canetti. Everything Iconic Comics. We will be continuing to update you. And like I said, to recap, Iconic Comics is not relegated to Texas and Arkansas. We are willing to go to Portland. We are willing to go to North Carolina. We are willing to go to Orlando, Florida. We are willing to go anywhere to meet you face to face and earn your trust. Pitch our books to you. See if you're game to take a chance on Soul Finder, Black Ops, Common America, Arc Athena, Kindred Heavens, Punchline, all of these sorts of things. Thank you for supporting Iconic Comics. Thank you for tuning in again and again for many years now to this little YouTube channel. I know I'm not on as much as I used to be, but I do try to catch up with everybody. Appreciate it. And yeah, so I think that's about it. Dan, thanks for tuning in. Fabiano, Scribbles, Glinzer, everybody else that was tuning in. I don't know if it felt as though there was a little glitch. My internet was being a little sketchy there, a little iffy, but I think I got it fixed. Mr. X, yeah, Matt did tease the cover for Punchline Volume 3, if memory serves. Yeah, let me go back. I think Bill Williams also mentioned Punchline in the not too distant past. Got 007, Christopher Nolan. Is this going to happen? I'm not going to hold my breath on this one. It would be cool. I said if we lived in a sane world, that would happen, but we don't necessarily live in a sane world. All right, yeah, so here's Bill Williams, Punchline, trade paperback, Volume 3, Daughters of Hercules, collects Punchlines number 11 through 15. So, yeah, it looks like this is either gearing up or will be out soon or it's online. I don't know. Go check out Bill Williams' Twitter feed if you're into Punchline. I should know all this sort of stuff, but I have been trying so hard to get Soul Finder Volume 4, Noctis Terrari, all those things finished so I could get them printed and get them to you, and also Soul Finder Volume 5. And I'm doing research for Soul Finder Volume 6, a standalone story with Detective Chua, and I might start in the near future laying down the groundwork for another IP. I was talking to Eric Canetti about it in Portland, and he seemed to dig it and encouraged me to move forward with it. So I think I'll do that. So anyway, thanks again to everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'll be back in the near future with another update, especially when I don't know exactly when Tim's going to launch the next campaign, Tim and Mark, but when he does, I will be back doing a live stream for sure. So again, thanks for everything. I'll see you guys later. See ya.